caught on camera. What surveillance shows about the crash that led to a major train derailment and an explosion in Rosedale.
Remembering a 1-year-old murder victim.
Don't hurt anybody's mother and don't hurt anybody's child. And some of these knuckleheads don't have honor system within them.
The way one neighborhood is responding to a horrific crime.
Looking at very hot temperatures out there across the state, soaring into the upper 80s, lower 90s. It looks like more heat's on the way. I'll show you how long that heat will stick around coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
And the destructive force of flooding. What led to this incredible scene on a college campus?
Live in high definition from WBFF in Baltimore. This is Fox 45 News at 10.
Hello, I'm Jeff Barnes.
And I'm Jennifer Gilbert. We are getting a much more detailed look at that train accident yesterday. Here is a live look at the scene of the crash site right now in Rosedale. You can see heavy equipment being used there right now to clean up the debris surrounding this disaster on the tracks that occurred just about 18 hours ago. Still cleaning up and looking for answers in Rosedale tonight.
We're also getting our first-hand look at the crash itself. This video picks up 8 seconds before the accident. The NTSB says 3 seconds before impact, the truck rolled onto the tracks in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. The train then slams into the rear axle of the truck. 50-year-old John Albin Jr. inside the cab. You don't see it in the video, but the train derails 33 seconds after impact. 43 seconds after impact, the first smoke and flames appear. 5 minutes and 23 seconds after the crash, the major explosion. The evidence of it, the fireball lighting up the entire parking lot, and the force of the blast knocking over the camera. Even though there's a lot of video of this crash, the NTSB is still trying to figure out exactly how it happened.
Crime and Justice reporter Joy LaPola shows us what court records reveal about the man who was driving that trash hauler.
Video taken on a cell phone shows what happened in the moments that followed the collision of a CSX train and truck.
Do you need any bandages or anything to tie a tourniquet?
Trapped in the wreckage, 50-year-old John Albin Jr., a retired Baltimore County firefighter, who now spends his days operating a trash hauling business.
911's coming, partner.
This is just one of the recordings investigators with the National Transportation Safety Board are studying now that the smoke has cleared. At this point, where does everything stand with the NTSB?
Well, we've hit the ground running today. We were here yesterday, but today was the first opportunity for us to actually get on the scene.
Roads remain blocked off as HAZMAT workers remove chemicals left in the wake of this train derailment and fiery explosion.
If you look over where the cars show the rust there, that's a bulk solid car.
Stacked under it are 2 other rail cars you can't see. It's here where investigators say chemicals likely came in contact with one another and reacted. Feet from the crash site, buildings remain standing, but sides of them have been blown off. Mass destruction now being documented by the NTSB.
So we're out there photo documenting it. We're measuring the wreckage, the distances between the cars. We're documenting the damage to the rail cars.
Investigators are also looking into John Albin's driving history. Fox 45 found court records that show 4 days ago, he was pulled over for failure to secure his truck's load. And last month, police pulled him over for the same thing.
Certainly, our job is to identify all of those factors, because if you only identify one of them, then you can't address all the systemic issues.
Tonight, Albin remains in the hospital. This as federal investigators begin the process of piecing together what happened here, all in hope of preventing a derailment of this kind in the future. In Rosedale, Joy LaPola, Fox 45, News at 10.
Well, sources also tell us that equipment has been brought in to monitor air quality near the crash site.
And social media lit up with images and video of the fire and also explosion.
Here are a few that you might not have seen yet. The people shooting this video looked like they were far away, but watch what happens.
What was behind HaHa?
Whoa!
Oh, son! Oh, oh, son! That was like a mortar.
Inside, there could be debris.
It would already be coming down if there was.
Whoa! And here's a view from even farther away. The explosion was scary, even to those people from a so-called safe distance.
Oh my God!
Oh my God! Holy moly!
Every angle of that is just unbelievable. As you know, there were a lot of roads obviously in that area, people in cars on those roads, and one of them pulled out his cell phone camera for this.
I don't know. I'm about to ask him what's that down there on fire? Back up. Oh my God. Oh. Hey, yo.
Well, you can watch those videos and the video of the collision that you saw just a few minutes ago. They are all on our website, foxbaltimore.com. Click on Around the Web in the Hot Topics section on the left side of the screen. The impact of the crash was felt in nearby homes and businesses.
Kathleen Cairns reports tonight the cleanup may take months.
The union that usually fixes things now has some repairs of its own to do.
It's funny, you don't realize how an explosion causes this kind of damage. You see it in movies and TVs, but until you really see it firsthand, you think it's fake.
Members of Local 486 were watching the smoke from the train accident when the explosion erupted.
This spot is where we're standing when the explosion hit.
It knocked you off your feet.
Outside windows are now windowless, but it's inside where the extent of the damage becomes more apparent.
This is Sandy's office, and if Sandy would have been in here at the time, she would have probably been cut to shreds.
The force of the explosion was so fierce it blew through the building, knocking doors right off their hinges. It brought down ceiling tiles, and over here you can see it blew this right out of the ceiling.
Everyone was very fortunate, and absolutely no one got hurt. We can always replace the material things.
I believe a shock wave came right down the railroad tracks.
In a nearby neighborhood.
So we're only a couple thousand feet from where it actually happened.
Brian is worried about his dog, Phoebe.
It was the concussion from the explosion. I have 1, 2, 3.
Windows are blown out.
4, 5.
And shards of glass are now planted next to blades of grass.
6, 7, 8 windows total.
Yet everyone is counting their blessings.
It could have been a lot worse.
Residents and workers here say cleanup may take months.
It was a very scary moment.
In Rosedale, Kathleen Cairns, Fox 45 News at 10.
All right, here's a look back at what we know tonight.
The NTSB says 4 of the cars on that train that derailed contained hazardous materials. 3 of those cars derailed, and the one that exploded was loaded with sodium chlorate.
We now have a timeline of events as well. The first smoke and flames occurs 43 seconds after the collision. The explosion happening more than 5 minutes after the train's impact with that truck.
And we're learning more about the driving record of the driver of that trash truck. John Albin Jr. had been pulled over twice in the past 2 months for not securing the container on his truck.
Now, Fox 45 mobile subscribers were among the very first to know about the train explosion. You could subscribe to our breaking news alert simply by texting WBFF to 45203 or go to our website, foxbaltimore.com, and click on mobile alerts under Hot Topics. The outrage can still be felt in Cherry Hill after a 1-year-old is killed during a targeted attack. Janice Park live at police headquarters and tells us tonight hundreds gathered to pay their respects to this toddler. Janice.
Hi, Jeff. Well, out of the hundreds that gathered today, half of them were children. It was just truly an incredible sight. Tonight, the Baltimore City State's Attorney, law enforcement behind me, people living in Cherry Hill, everyone making the pledge to make sure the murder of a young child never happens again. Young Carter Scott, one of the latest victims of Baltimore City's growing violence. In the same Cherry Hill parking lot where his father's bullet-riddled car stood Friday. Today, it was replaced with a circle of peace.
What are you doing? What are you doing to help your community?
And the angry words of a fed-up community.
It's terrible that he got shot. I mean, it's dangerous out here. I mean, they killed a baby, a child. When is it going to end? We need more people to get together and stop all this. It's crazy.
Police have beefed up patrols in the area to calm fears of retaliation. Law enforcement says they felt obligated to come.
Having a child killed is one of the worst things that can happen to a neighborhood, a community, and to a city. We feel like that we let down the community to have this happen. So we're we're trying to become more involved in the community nowadays and show that we're supporting the community and we work for them.
Children clutching basketballs, children being held by their parents. Some were streets away or on hilltops, but still felt compelled to listen, as Baltimore City's top prosecutor pledged to protect them.
It doesn't matter to me who the victim is. If there's a victim, it's our job to prosecute the person who committed the crime.
A promise that people in Cherry Hill say their life depends on.
But you know, put the guns down because it's innocent people that's getting hurt. It's the innocent ones, you know. It's the innocent ones. And it's sad.
On your screen are the two men that police have arrested in the murder of 1-year-old Carter Scott. Police tell us they are still looking for one more shooter. We're live tonight in downtown Baltimore, Janice Park, Fox 45, News at 10.
That's an ounce of marijuana.
And that's an ounce of marijuana.
The unique business growing around legalized pot in another state. That's in our cover story in just 15 minutes.
And I'm Keith Daniels in Annapolis, where there could be fear and loathing for anyone with a sliding glass patio door. We'll explain coming up.
And we saw a very warm day out there today with temperatures soaring into the upper 80s, lower 90s. We're sitting at a muggy 78 right now, 78 in D.C., 71 in Hagerstown, and the lower mid-70s on the eastern shore. I'll show you how hot it's going to get tomorrow coming up.
A former Navy reservist pleads guilty to child porn charges. Anthony Mastrogiovanni of Crofton pled guilty to the sexual exploitation of minors. Mastrogiovanni was accused of exploiting more than 30 boys ages 9 to 16 to produce child porn. The incidents happened in Maryland and Louisiana between 2006 and 2012. Authorities say he met his victims through his involvement in civic organizations or his military affiliation. And he created the videos using hidden cameras in his house. Mastrogiovanni faces a minimum of 15 years in prison.
It's a one-of-a-kind lawsuit targeting viewers of child pornography. Karen Parks live downtown where the case was filed in federal court. Karen.
Jeff, that's right. This case was filed yesterday afternoon here in federal court. Now, an Anne Arundel County woman is suing more than 250 people authorities are calling pedophiles for viewing child pornography of her 4- and 6-year-old little girls. What's also disturbing, the children's father and one of his friends pled guilty to sexually abusing the little girls, making videos of the abuse and then disseminating what attorneys are calling a packet to hundreds of pedophiles involved in active trading. The two men were sentenced to 45 and 36 years in prison. Now, those that viewed or received pornography of those two children are now being sued in an $8 million lawsuit.
The backgrounds is really astounding. We have college professors, we have patent holders, we have executives in companies, we have just really anybody from any walk of life, law enforcement, military. You know, it's really shocking.
The number of defendants stands now at 266, but that number is expected to increase. It's a never-ending horror for the family. These images will be on the internet forever, and every time those little girls are viewed, that person is tracked, another case is open, and the family is notified. At least 12 of those defendants are from Maryland. Reporting live here in downtown Baltimore, Karen Parks, Fox 45 News at 10.
Thank you, Karen. And we had our question of the day for you today. Should those who view child pornography be sued? We have received hundreds of comments. This is a hot button issue, as you can well understand. John wrote, awesome. Hope they all get time and fines. April wrote, absolutely. Not only sued, but serve time as well. Then we heard from Vera, who says the father and the friend should be put in jail. The viewers should be prosecuted. It's criminal, not civil. And finally, this from Gus. They should most definitely seek psychiatric help, in my opinion. There's just something that's not right about these folks. As always, we appreciate your input, and any question we ask you on a daily basis, please join the discussion right now if you have yet to do so, simply by going to facebook.com/Fox Baltimore.
Police in Annapolis are looking for a man that they say is exposing himself to women while they're standing at their back doors. Keith Daniels is here now, back from Annapolis, with a warning from police. Keith.
Well, Jennifer, police say it's happened at least a half dozen times over the past 3 months. And tonight, We caught up with one woman who says it happened to her.
I saw his shadow over here.
Barbara Sudam tells us play by play what happened.
He had opened, there's a gate, he had opened the back gate to get in.
The moments before the moment that she'd rather forget.
It's not a pleasant experience.
It happened in Sudam's backyard at her home on Holiday Court in Annapolis. She says she was sitting in a chair inside her home reading a book when she saw a man standing at the back sliding door, exposed.
He was masturbating up against the screen.
That was more than 2 weeks ago, but Sudam says it also happened in March.
The question of the year is, why me? You know, and why so often?
Police believe this same man has exposed himself to women before, at least 3 other times at homes within blocks of here. Once last week, outside of a patio door at this apartment complex on Gemini Drive. Then police say he did it outside of a sliding glass door, tapped on the glass door at an apartment on Bryson Street, twice in April, once in March. Sudam says the man did not leave when she saw him. Instead, he stayed until she grabbed the phone to call police. In fact, investigators say he behaved that way at each crime, a flasher's folly that to one woman is far from funny.
I don't know how to explain it because it's extremely scary and extremely disgusting. You know, and I wish he would stop it. I hope they catch him.
Well, police are working with a vague description of the suspect. Some victims say he's a thin man and wears dark clothing with something covering all or part of his face. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News at 10.
All right, Keith, Attorney General Eric Holder is under heavy fire from lawmakers this evening over his testimony about seizing reporters' phone records and also emails. Holder's also facing an avalanche of criticism for his role and testimony before the U.S. Congress. On May 15th, you recall, Holder appeared before the House Judiciary Committee and said he was not involved in the potential prosecution of a member of the press for disclosing information. Turns out, Holder signed off on a search warrant of emails and phone records of James Rosen, a Fox News correspondent.
Whether it's perjury or not, I guess depends upon how Mr. Holder answers the questions that Chairman Goodlatte and I have requested him to do so. And we want to have an answer no later than Wednesday of next week, June 5th.
President Barack Obama has asked for a report on this very issue by July the 12th. So what does all this snooping mean for investigative journalists? How will it affect freedom of the press? Melinda Roeder talked with media analysts today to get their take on this issue.
It's an issue pitting U.S. justice officials against reporters, mostly from the Associated Press. Government officials secretly snooping on them, tracking their every phone call.
We're talking about 20 phone lines, secretive collections of information, personal phone lines. This was not a minor investigation. It was a broad dragnet sweep.
And the Attorney General himself, Eric Holder, signed off on a decision to subpoena phone records of a Fox News reporter. Ann McKenna is a media law attorney specializing in privacy issues and freedom of speech. She recognizes the need for national security, but believes the Obama administration may have violated the freedom of the press.
This was done in secret. These AP reporters did not know that these lines were being tapped.
Actions that might surprise voters who recall the president back in 2009 calling for more transparency in government.
The way to make government responsible is to hold it accountable. And the way to make government accountable is make it transparent.
But critics now blame the president and his officials for not just a lack of transparency, but what some consider a war on journalism.
It seems that the administration is really caught in some contradictions here, and it looks as if they are trying to put a chilling effect on investigative journalism.
But under the fear of constant scrutiny, can reporters really do their jobs? Will sources be too scared to come forward?
You'd be foolish not to worry a little bit about that.
Al Foreman runs a news blog and believes all reporters are now at risk for being spied on.
Even though they had a legitimate reason for doing it, they did it secretly. And they didn't tell anybody they were doing it.
And some say that kind of scrutiny undermines democracy.
There is no democracy without free speech, and there's no democracy without free press.
Melinda Roeder, Fox 45 News at 10.
Things are really heating up in Baltimore. It feels like summer already.
Yeah, it may stick around for some time, too. It'd be nice. So welcome change. Anyway, let's go to our chief meteorologist, Vetus Reed, for a look at the first forecast, Vetus.
Yeah, it was a hot one out there today. We saw plenty of sunshine, temperatures topping out in those mid-upper 80s, lower 90s. Right now, it looks like we're seeing mainly clear conditions out there across the central portion of the state. Eastern shore looking pretty good. And back in the western edge of the state, but it looks like we're going to continue to see muggy conditions as we go through the overnight, as we don't see any precip out there, but just a few high, thin clouds that scooted through the area earlier, but we're going mostly clear as we go through the overnight. And it looks like those temperatures, like I said, are going to be mild and muggy. 79 right now in Baltimore, looking at 78 in D.C. Salisbury looking at 76 degrees, 78 in Hagerstown, a little bit cooler in Oakland at 68 degrees. Tonight, looking at mainly clear conditions, temperatures right around 69 degrees. That's going to give us a kickstart to see muggy conditions for the morning commute, and it's going to heat up quite a bit tomorrow afternoon. I'll show you how long this heat wave is going to stick around coming up in my 7-day forecast.
You may have noticed the grass along the road getting a little longer. The reason behind the change in scenery and the safety concerns in 10 minutes on Fox 45 News at 10.
That's an ounce of marijuana.
And that's an ounce of marijuana.
And speaking of grass, like pizza coming to your front door, but if it's 1/2 hour late, you still have to pay for it. The state of Colorado is doing it. Could it soon be coming eastward, however? That's our cover story on the other side of the break. Maryland now has medical marijuana, but in a limited way.
Research centers can establish programs to give marijuana to sick patients, but legalization of pot in Colorado has gone much farther.
In that state, recreational use has been legalized. Jim Spellman now shows us a unique business that has grown there, delivering pot right to your front door.
It's Saturday night in a suburban Denver office, and Eric's workday is just getting started. His business is marijuana, delivered straight to your door anywhere in the Denver area, usually in 45 minutes or less.
So now it's just a matter of a small wait, and we should see an order or something come in.
His company is called MedX Express. They advertise on Craigslist and so far have 5 drivers plus employees who prepare the marijuana for delivery. The order completed online, his client gets an email confirmation, and Eric hits the road. First stop, the fulfillment center, aka the apartment where they keep the weed. No cameras allowed, Eric says. All right, what did you get?
Okay, so the packaging is all done. We actually guaranteed freshness, so that's why there's these. Have an 1/8 here. This is 3.5 grams of LA Confidential.
Weed in hand, Dr. Dre on the radio, and Eric is on his way. The first customer of the night is a businessman from out of town, staying at a hotel. He ordered an 1/8 of an ounce of marijuana. He's going to pay $45 for that, plus a $5 delivery surcharge. Last year, Colorado voters passed Amendment 64, making recreational use of marijuana legal. Retail stores won't go online until January 2014, but under state law, anyone in Colorado can possess small amounts of marijuana. Eric says this means Colorado is in a gray area, and he thinks this makes his business legal. It's probably not, but so far he says the police haven't bothered him. To hedge his bets, he advertises that the payment is a so-called donation. Make of that what you will.
We understand that it's pretty rogue as far as what's going on, but we want to be the pioneers to be able to set up a legitimate business instead of this being ran by some thugs.
35 minutes after the order was placed, he pulls into the hotel parking lot.
Hey, this is Eric. Hey, I just pulled up.
Eric also runs a financial services company and a debt consolidation business, but thinks this will be his most successful business yet. Ultimately, where do you want your business to be?
I'm a big planner. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a businessman. So I want this to be a future. I want this to be something that we can set up that has a great operation, maybe even a franchise.
Back for another order, headed to a house in an upscale Denver suburb.
This is a quarter here. Once again, Mountain Gorilla, hot special tonight. And then this is going to be also a quarter of White Fire.
He'll keep going all night, delivering marijuana and staking his claim in Colorado's marijuana gold rush.
If this was crack or something like that, I wouldn't be doing this, This is something that probably should have been legalized long before. So it's not something that I'm ashamed of anyway. I think it's a great way, a great business opportunity, a great way to be able to support my family.
Jim Spellman, CNN, Parker, Colorado.
Major flooding at one college. What caused this massive amount of water that caused a lot of destruction there?
So I'm not a complainer, but yeah, something can be done about this.
Cutting back on mowing the grass. The reason behind the change in scenery and safety concerns coming out of this.
There today, temperatures getting in the mid upper 80s, lower 90s. In fact, our almanac shows the high today getting up to 89 degrees. Low was 66 this morning. Normally we should be at 78. We're going to see those temperatures getting well above normal once again. I'll tell you all about it next.
In this age of furloughs and cutbacks, some local governments are cutting back on cutting grass. Paul Gesser reports mowing has taken a back seat now to budget savings in recent years.
Oh man, do they cut the grass?
Mike Carroll takes pride in his Baltimore neighborhood.
You need to clean it all up once you cut it.
Carroll cuts the grass for a dozen homes on Druid Park Drive.
So when the people next door sitting there, they're doing like this.
Mike sees neighborhoods run down.
So there go the trash, there go the rats.
When grass gets growing.
It's disgusting.
It looks like a petrified forest. That's what it looks like. It looks like a jungle.
Across Baltimore City and County, scenes like these grow on people's nerves.
Well, it doesn't look pretty. Point blank, it don't look pretty. I'm not a complainer, but yeah, something can be done about this.
It may take a complaint to get a public area mowed. Baltimore County officials say their new 3-year-old policy addresses mowing for safety reasons, not just for aesthetics.
That new policy involves less mowing and, in essence, less money. A spokesperson for the Bureau of Highways says less mowing is actually better for the environment, and they can use their resources more effectively elsewhere.
I'm just saying, there's no reason at all if you're just going to sit there and let it go. That's bull. That's completely bull.
It takes away the value of the area. It makes the area look tacky.
Baltimore County has made mowing more systematic, addressing issues as they come up. Baltimore City has more of a mowing schedule.
It looks nice when they cut it, but when it's not cut, it's a hazard for the traffic.
For now, Mike will stay on top of his mowing, even if the city or counties cut back.
Yeah,
in Baltimore,
it looks
Paul
pretty
Gessler,
good,
Fox
though.
45 News at 10.
Baltimore addresses complaints as they arise. If you see an area needing cutting, just call this number, 311. The president of the National Rifle Association was speaking out tonight in Glen Burnie. David Keene was the keynote address speaker at the Lincoln Reagan Day celebration hosted by the GOP State Central Committee of Anne Arundel County. As you may well expect, Keene defended the Second Amendment rights, but he also took aim at the Obama White House over the current scandals going on in Washington.
And the hope is that it'll all go away and that the American people will accept the incremental, the insidious incremental loss of freedom that some have been warning about for so long. My friends, I don't think the American people are going to do that.
The chairman of the Maryland Democratic Party, meantime, released a statement saying Keene's appearance is proof of the Republican Party's push to the right.
Earlier this month, Lieutenant Governor Anthony Brown formally announced plans to run for governor. And now Brown has apparently chosen a running mate. The Washington Post is reporting that Howard County Executive Ken Allman has decided to join Brown when he runs next year.
Ken Allman would be a good choice if Anthony moves in that direction. He has a proven track record in Howard County, and I think he would provide some geographical balance.
Anthony Brown is expected to formally announce his choice for a running mate next week.
More cameras will be watching for speeders in Baltimore County very, very soon. County police have announced the placement of speed cameras in 13 additional school zones. For 30 days now, after the cameras are activated, speeders will receive warnings, but after that, the tickets will be issued. For a complete list of speed camera locations in Baltimore County, simply go to foxbaltimore.com/newslinks. Some areas of the Midwest are seeing heavy flooding tonight, and we're getting a look now at just how dangerous that can be. Take a look at this video. Floodwaters came crashing into the front of this building and then ripped out the front doors, frame and all. Watch this. This is a building on the main campus of Carl Sandburg College in Galesburg, Illinois. Now you can see desks, chairs, tables swept away in the gushing waters. Crews say they'll be working to clean up the damage for the next couple of days. And after looking at that, we cannot complain here because it was hot today, but you know what? It's nice.
Yeah, you know, we saw those temperatures soaring into the mid-upper 80s, lower 90s across the area, and it looks like we're going to see this push of air for the next several days. We're on the front edge of the system that's causing severe weather once again tonight over parts of the plains in Tornado Alley. But for us, it looks like what we're seeing is the brunt of humid, hot temperatures ahead of that system. So we're seeing warm air pushing up out of the south, and that's going to help our temperatures stay in the range that they are. So you can see those storms firing up ahead of a cold front over parts of Kansas, Oklahoma. Once again, they're getting thumped with severe weather, and then down in parts of Texas, just north of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. But we can see that warm air extending up behind the warm front that's moving all the way up into the Great Lakes, as far north as up into parts of Canada. Buffalo, New York, even seeing warm temperatures, and up there towards Ontario, Canada as also. So it looks like we'll continue to see this push of hot temperatures. You can see actually right now across the region, we have temperatures mainly in the mid-upper 70s still holding steady. Right now, we're going to continue to see that mild air pushing up, keeping us on the muggy side of things. In fact, you can kind of see that air looking kind of chunky out there. 83 degrees downtown Inner Harbor, broken clouds, but it's a little hazy. Looking at winds out of the south-southwest at 6 with humidity levels sitting at 60%. The temperatures across the region, Westminster at 76 degrees, 76 in Bel Air. Elkton at 77 over on the Eastern Shore. In Chestertown looking at 76 degrees. Annapolis right now 73. 81 in Columbia still holding, and then a little cooler where this measurement's being taken at 68 in Laurel, and then 81 in Gaithersburg. Timing this out, you can kind of see how that heat is going to continue to build in, cooling down into the lower 70s tonight. Then we warm right back up into those upper 80s, lower 90s across the central portion of the state. It looks like it's going to be a very warm day once again. And then as we get into Friday, we're holding on to those upper 80s, lower 90s once again, all across the central region. So we are going to be in this little heat spell for the next several days until we get a frontal boundary pushing through later towards the end of the weekend. So looking at the radar satellite, you can see mainly clearing conditions right now. And as far as any precip, the model run, because of the daily heating, is showing a little pop-up shower here and there, but it looks like this is not going to happen. I think we're going to have a better chance of just seeing sunny conditions for the next couple of days, leading us into Friday, and then it's also into Saturday, so it looks like a pretty decent forecast. 92 degrees for tomorrow, looking at plenty of sunshine with those winds out of the south, a very hot, muggy day. And then for the next several days here, looking at more sunshine on Friday, 93 degrees. On Saturday, 92. As we get into Sunday, 50% chance for showers as that frontal system gets a little closer, giving us a chance for cooling temperatures. Monday, chance for more thunderstorms, 80 degrees, and we're back into those 70s and 80s, lower 80s, for Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. So kind of back into the range of where we should be, but it's going to be hot for the next couple of days, leading us into the weekend. Back to you.
Thank you, Vitas. You can join us for a day of giving tomorrow, May 30th.
We're raising money for the recovery efforts in the state of Oklahoma. And here's a look at the ways you can give.
We'll be holding a local telethon right here in our Fox 45 studios. We will have a phone line open for you to call and donate throughout the day, starting at 5 a.m. This is a company-wide effort for us. Our parent company, Sinclair Broadcast Group, is also matching donations up to $50,000. Sinclair is matching funds from employees at all of our stations, and it will match funds from you as well. You can make your check out to the Sinclair Relief Fund and send it to our station, 2000 West 41st Street in Baltimore. The zip code is 21211. More moms bringing home the bread instead of baking it, the record number of women supporting their families, and the reason not everybody thinks it's a good idea.
The more the IRS and White House apologize over this IRS scandal, the more questions are being raised. What is up with this mysterious rogue government agency? Christine Frizzell gets to the heart of the matter next.
The prospect of a president using the IRS as a political enforcement mechanism has millions of Americans alarmed. Despite assurances from the administration that the targeting had stopped, there is growing concern among conservative groups that the targeting by the IRS came from on high. Dean Zerb, the former chief counsel of the Senate Finance Committee, pins the blame for IRS abuses on lax management.
The commissioner ultimately has to take responsibility, has to be right up there in terms of what's going on, what's happening, and finding out if he doesn't know what's going on. And so I think that was very troubling that this kind of not me, the other fellow behind the tree mentality needs to change.
A tradition of IRS independence also seems to have faltered. Former IRS Commissioner Mark Everson visited the White House only one time in 5 years, but his successor, Douglas Shulman, made 118 visits to the White House. A source tells Fox News that Shulman's White House visits may have dealt with, in part, how to deal with this $60,000 Star Trek spoof that was played at an expensive IRS leadership conference in 2010. Where exactly did the IRS cross the line, and what line did it cross when it targeted nonprofit social welfare groups? National correspondent Christine Frizzell focuses on the questions asked by the IRS.
It started with Patriot and Tea Party, benign words the IRS used to filter and single out conservative social welfare groups.
What the IRS is doing in targeting Tea Party groups is really threatening the free and open political debate. And free and open political debate is something that we value so much in this country that we created the First Amendment specifically to protect this.
The volume of questions posed by the IRS was daunting. And in the words of the Treasury Inspector General for the Tax Administration, the nature of it was inappropriate.
But to grill a group of people because they don't agree with them politically is just wrong, and that's against everything that's American.
Among the multitude of questions posed to one or more conservative social welfare groups, name all donors, describe the nature of prayers at prayer meetings, submit minutes of all board meetings, provide summaries of all written material handed out, and even the names of board members or officers that intend to run for public office.
All of these things sound like the scary sort of thought police you would expect in a totalitarian country.
Stephen Miller, the former director of the IRS, testified on Capitol Hill earlier this month that the abuses were not intended to silence anyone or quash political causes.
But many political observers don't buy it. Skepticism runs deep that the IRS's true intention was indeed to weed out groups that didn't qualify for a tax exemption.
Well, it looks like a fishing expedition of sorts to link a category of organizations to something bigger that doesn't have any real bearing on the underlying point of the tax code.
I'm Christine Frizzell, Fox 45 News.
Acting IRS Commissioner Daniel Werfel is in the process of completing a 30-day review of the agency. Werfel has promised to determine who should be held accountable.
New research finds the number of American families with so-called breadwinner moms is rapidly on the rise. The study says a record 40% of households with kids now rely on mothers as the primary or sole source of income. There are two groups inside that 40%, single mothers and women who earn more than their husbands. The research finds many families get economic benefits from breadwinning moms, but it also makes it much more difficult to raise children. We now have an update on that incredible story coming from China, a newborn baby rescued from that sewer pipe.
New pictures show him recovering at the hospital in stable condition. Well, the video was just so incredible. The rescue that you might have seen, firefighters sawing away the pipe after neighbors heard the infant's cries and saw his tiny feet. The pipe and child were rushed to the hospital where surgeons and firefighters used pliers to free the baby boy. Now, police are still investigating, but they say so far they believe the 22-year-old mother's story that it was a terrible accident.
The girl was at her rental place. That day she felt stomach aches, so she went to the toilet. It was actually close to her due date and the baby just slid out.
Well, neighbors say the mother is from out of town. Meanwhile, at the hospital, rescuers brought blankets and formula to the baby boy, still without a name right now. Authorities right now are saying the mother won't be prosecuted. It's unclear where the baby will go after it is released from the hospital.
O's and Nats playing home run derby tonight. How many were sent out of Camden Yards? Next in Sports Unlimited.
Securing your smartphone, why a password isn't enough to protect your personal information, and the simple steps to keep your data safe.
What a night at Camden Yards. If you were there, you'll remember it a long, long time. If you weren't there, then settle back. The Birds come from behind to take a big win over the Nationals. Top of the fourth, it's tied at 1. Watch this. Roger Bernardina all the way onto Utah Street. Wow. his second of the year, second in 2 days. Bottom of the inning, Orioles strike back, courtesy Chris Davis. That's his 18th home run of the year. Leads the league. 8 of them in the game tonight in all. Nationals led 3-2, but they weren't done yet. Ryan Zimmerman up already with 2 home runs. See you later. His third of the night. First time he'd ever done that. 6-2 Nats. But back come the Birds with a 4-run seventh. And again, Davis with the big blow. His second home run of the night. His 19th of the year. And the Birds take a dramatic 9-6 victory as Davis gets the obligatory shaving cream pie to the face.
We were down early, and we were able to come back. And, you know, I mean, these are the games that really test a team and show what we're made of. And the fact that I have shaving cream all over my face right now is it's a good sign.
And we're proud of him because he's getting back what he's putting into it. It's not always the case, but, you know, the baseball gods let you off. And Chris is, you know, he's had a lot of people, thinking he couldn't do what he's doing.
Great game. Nice big crowd, too. Towson University baseball was almost axed. Now they head to the NCAA baseball championship. Morgan Ansett has that story when Sports Unlimited continues at 11:30.
If you store sensitive information on your smartphone, a recent survey by Consumer Reports projects more than 7 million smartphone owners had a phone that was lost, stolen, or ruined in the last year alone.
As Patrice Sanders explains, a few key moves can go a long way to keeping your data safe.
Amanda Sutton panicked when someone stole her smartphone.
Who knows what they could do with that information? I mean, there's pictures and bank cards and emails.
Unfortunately, Amanda hadn't taken steps to protect her personal information. She's not alone, according to a national representative survey done by Consumer Reports.
Nearly 40% of smartphone users don't take actions to secure their phones, like backing up their data or simply setting a screen lock.
Even if you do lock, experts say a tech-savvy thief can quickly crack certain 4-digit passcodes. Consumer Reports says far safer, setting a longer code that includes letters and symbols. Android phones let you do it by going to settings, but then each phone is a little different. On one, security, then screen lock gets you to the password reset. But on this Android phone, you'll tap lock screen, screen lock in order to change your password. With iPhone, it's even trickier. Under settings, tap general and passcode lock. Check that the simple passcode is turned off and then tap passcode on, and now you can enter your longer passcode. Consumer Reports says another security risk, apps that ask for permission to do too much, like this simple flashlight app. It wants to know your location and information about your phone calls. For adults like Amanda, taking a few basic precautions can secure sensitive data, and kids need protection too. The survey projects at least 5 million preteens have a smartphone of their own. Malicious software isn't as common on your smartphone as on your computer, but the problem is growing. So Consumer Reports recommends getting your apps only from reputable sources. Android users should stick with Amazon's App Store or Google Play. For iPhone users, Apple's App Store is the only source for apps, and it's reputable too. Patrice Sanders, Fox 45 News at 10.
Talk about taking a flying leap. The monumental jump one man took off Mount Everest.
And coming up in just 3.5 more minutes on the late edition, weddings rarely ever go exactly as planned. Why that was certainly the case this time at one marriage ceremony in Georgia. And more evidence tonight that you try to sell just about anything on eBay, how high the bidding actually went for a spot in heaven.
It's the 60th anniversary of the conquest of Mount Everest, and a Russian extreme sports star is celebrating in a very appropriate way.
48-year-old Valery Rozov jumping from the north base of Mount Everest at a height of 23,687 feet above sea level. That's the highest base jump ever completed. After spending nearly 3 weeks in the Himalayas before the big jump, Rozov successfully and safely made his epic landing.
It's 11 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?